is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about the new batch of indictments that have dropped, like a superseded indictments regarding the classified documents case with Trump. Conveniently dropped, I think, after the Hunter Biden stuff exploded, as people are noting. Could it all be a coincidence? Sure, it could be. I don't think things like that work like that in coincidence, but it could be a coincidence. So we'll be talking about that. The Black Caucus is coming for Florida, and they want the DOJ to look into the curriculum in Florida to see if they're violating any rights or anything like that with their curriculum. And we've talked about this past couple days, and the story is it just keeps getting dumber and dumber. And it's very much reminiscent of the Don't Say Gay bill, but you got people weighing in who maybe they're free to weigh in, but it's like, bro, can't just think about this a little more clearly. Tim Scott weighed in, Byron Donald weighed in the other day, and it's pretty nutty. All the stuff that's going on, but the crazy thing is what they want in there, or things that they're suggesting should be in there, is in the curriculum. So people criticizing it haven't looked at it. I'll tell you about a crazy back and forth I've been having with people on Facebook about this issue. Another thing I want to show you guys is part of a testimony from someone who had to compete against William/Leah Thomas at UPenn. Gave a really explosive testimony a few days ago, so I want to go ahead and show you at least a portion of that so people know that this is real, this is affecting women in real life. And even if you feel it's a small issue, the question is, I don't feel that it's a small issue, but why do women get to lose? I'll keep asking that question. Why in this debate, why is it the women who have to keep losing? Doesn't make any sense to me. But before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blackteanews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blackteanews.com/donate. It costs to stream, it costs to run my website, all that good stuff. So if you can support in that way, God bless you. I very much appreciate it. If you can't, I understand. Thank you for liking, for commenting, etc. But if you can, again, whether it's a small gift of $10, $20, or more, we very much appreciate it. You guys can also give in super chats if you're watching on Facebook, YouTube. Facebook stars, YouTube super chats. You guys can also do thanks later. But if you want to go to the website, there's a link in the description. You guys can also check out different merchandise that we have available. I have my book, of course, God is Blatant Against Abortion. Sorry, that's like my new sweat tissue. I sweat on my nose like crazy. I got my, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion book here. You can get it on Amazon, you can Barnes & Noble, but the link is, actually there should be a link also in the description, but very easy to find my stuff. If you just search my name on Amazon, it's Christina with the CH, the correct way to spell it. No shade to the Christinas with a K out there, but if you go to the website and go to merchandise, there's also a banner at the top with a picture of some of my books on it, and it will take you to my book website so you can learn more about my fiction books, which I have 15 of those published, and I have 2 nonfiction books. So thank you guys for supporting in that kind of way. And also check out different merch like shirts and whatnot that we have at the store, and mugs. I told you guys I would come out with a new Kamala skit, and I did do that. So if you haven't found it, checked it out yet, I did put it on YouTube in the shorts and TikTok and Facebook, and I have not done Twitter yet. I didn't do it on Instagram yet, but I will do that after the show. So if you haven't got that, go ahead and do it. I think there are better like impressionists doing Kamala. Don't get me wrong, but I think mine is okay. I think the glass of fake wine is is what's really people like. You nailed it. It's not wine, by the way. It's usually before when I did a skit with her, it was like Welch's white grape juice because I don't drink, and I think this one was like it's Welch's, but I think it's a peach, and it's pretty good. The white grape juice is good, but I'm not huge on grape juice, but the peach was good. So I think peach will be our signature going forward. But no, that's not me getting tips to there. But you guys can check out that skit and share it around, please. And I guess that's kind of it for our announcements, and we can go into our scheduled broadcast, I guess. But I do have a meme that I want to show you guys. I don't know who made it. I'm gonna share this Twitter screen so you guys can see who tweeted it. So maybe it was this person. By the way, I don't like the rebranding of Twitter. It doesn't make a lot of sense other than Elon, sure, arbiter of free speech, wants people to have free speech and freedom and liberty. And sure, I very much appreciate that aspect of him buying Twitter. But maybe he also wanted a platform and didn't want to build one from scratch. So there's that, possibility. But also, if that's the case, I don't understand if not taking advantage of Twitter logo and the name, because the X, I don't get it. I don't like it. There were other better logos out there that people were submitting. One of them I retweeted. I'm like, Elon, are you serious? And I was looking through Twitter from on my phone and I'm like, where is it? Because I'm looking for a little bluebird. I'm looking for a little bluebird. Thank God the application was already open because I could just go back to it, because I just, I'm not looking for a little X. So I'm looking at my tabs and it's still so different because it's just like a black box with this, white. Well, I don't know if it's white or colored or whatever from where I'm at looking at my computer. It's just a notable piece of marketing that has changed that doesn't make sense to me. And it's not like the X is so many people use X like like it's cool, let's just slap on an X for it. It's not it doesn't make sense branding wise. I don't think so. I don't he bought it, he can do whatever he wants to, and I'm going to still keep using the platform, and I still like the platform, but it's weird to me. So just wanted to express my frustration for a moment for you guys who are unaware of what's going on Twitter. But this is pretty funny. If your crackhead son gets his felony drug charges dropped by the DOJ, then you ain't black. That's a good meme. I don't see any watermarks on or anything, so I don't know if this person who tweeted it is the one who made it, but that's a good one. That's a good one. If you don't know what's going on here, this is in reference to Joe Biden's comment when he had an interview on the Breakfast Club. I don't know how anyone cannot know this, but there's people out there who apparently don't, because I've seen some of those men on the street videos and people don't know that quote is Joe Biden. So I'm just going to briefly explain it. He was doing a video interview with Charlemagne from the Breakfast Club, and it was the end of the interview. That's the thing that's so funny to me about it. Like my younger sister told me about it when it first happened, and she was spitting bullets because she was so offended by it. And it is offensive. Just because I'm not spitting bullets about something doesn't mean that something isn't offensive. It is offensive what he said, but I thought it was hilarious because it was the very end of the interview, and Charlemagne said, we're looking forward to having you back, Joe Biden. And a normal person, a normal person would have said, that sounds great. I would love to do that. I can't wait to come back on. That's what a normal person would say when ending the interview. Joe Biden says, you're having trouble deciding between me and if you're having trouble deciding between me and Trump, then you ain't black. And he just, leans into the camera like, yeah, let's laugh and agree with each other. And Charlemagne just responds with, It ain't about Trump. It's about what's best for my community. And then he begins to like list his resume with lies. He's like, I've been endorsed by the NAACP every time I run, and it just starts saying stuff that's not true. So again, he with the whole interview and was just like, I haven't put my foot in my mouth today, and I like the taste of toast. Joe Biden just went for it. He just went for it. Was like, I gotta screw this up, and that was a huge moment on the campaign trail. So anyway, that's where the "You Ain't Black" comment comes from. But the crackhead, obviously that's Hunter Biden, and his felony charges with the gun. They were just gonna have it fall off, but the plea deal blew up because they were trying to put immunity for his other like serious tax violations and FARA for not him. He should have registered as like a foreign national dealing with all the stuff that he's been doing with Ukraine and China and other stuff. So they're still investigating that stuff. There could be more charges abound, and they just wanted to slip in the plea agreement that stuff would just he just have immunity, could not be charged for everything that's listed in reference to his taxes, which include possible FARA, what's the word I'm looking for? Violations. So it's funny. Now, I don't think just because you're white, it's a funny meme. It's not quite true. I don't think just because you're white, you're not going to get off on felony gun drug charges. I don't think that's true. Hunter Biden is in a very unique situation with being the son of the president of the United States, and them being very intertwined as far as their business dealings, and Joe Biden being a very corrupt person who does stuff and just feels that he can get away with anything that he wants to get away with. So we're aware of his DOJ being pretty darn shady. That immunity thing was super shady. Like the plea deal we knew was garbage before, but to know that they tried to sneak in some immunity stuff with it, not just having the gun charge dropped off, but a bunch of other serious stuff, and the judge was like smelled a rat and called him out. And they're probably going to make a new plea deal. We'll see what happens. Maybe can't. Probably not. Obviously, going to be as sweet as what they were trying to do. But they're going to try to make it so that Hunter isn't in jail or anything like that, and nothing really serious happens to him. But their DOJ is doing that at the same time. They're dropping all this new stuff on Trump. I think it's interestingly timed, as I said at the top of the hour. It could be a coincidence that yesterday they dropped some new indictments as far as Trump's classified case, but nevertheless, it's happened. So there's two big revelations that have popped up, and one, apparently Trump wanted some footage deleted from a server at Mar-a-Lago. So they decided to charge someone else in the case. So that obviously doesn't look good for Trump. People are making Hillary Clinton jokes, retweeting, people talking about the indictment and the servers and wiping it. And people are saying, what, like with a cloth? Flashback, that's what Hillary was playing dumb. And they're like, did you wipe stuff, or did they wipe stuff? And she's like, what, with like a cloth? Really playing dumb, when she was asked about this stuff. And then there's, you guys remember, I'm not going to play it. We played it like maybe 2-3 times already in the show, but President Trump he was being recorded, knew he was being recorded for a book or something. And he was talking about some Milley and plans with Iran. And he was saying, oh, this, they're saying I did this. I didn't do this. And he held out, allegedly, at first the transcript is in the indictment, the original indictment. And apparently he held it up held up, a paper and said, this exonerates me. This wasn't me. This was them. They sent this to me. And he said, it's too bad it's not classified. If I was president, I could declassify it, but it's still it's still like secret. And so then you heard he did an interview with Brett Baer about it. And I didn't think his interview with Brett was great. There were some segments that were good. There were some that weren't great, guys. And he talked about it again. And then Trump was asked questions about it and how Trump was explaining what happened. I'm like, okay, well, he's like, he said it wasn't a document, a classified document. He said he had a lot of papers and that he had printed out, and he just held it up and stuff. And the way that he started explaining it, I'm like, okay, well, that kind of seems like it's plausible, because from what we knew, the document that they're saying was classified that Trump was allegedly talking about didn't exist or wasn't there. There was no paper that was listed in the original indictment. So if they didn't find it and didn't have it, and I'm not saying that they were trying to frame him, but it could have been they thought he was talking about a classified document when he wasn't actually talking about a classified. He was talking about, or at least he didn't have it to show them. And the perception from Trump's interviews could have been, an interpretation could have been, he heard them talking about it in the news or whatever, and he sees something on the news, he responds to it or whatever, and that was kind of part of their conversation, and he had printed stuff about it. And I think someone else had mentioned in their book about Milley, and I think that could have been what exonerated him, or you could have interpreted that kind of way. Then the audio leaked, and I'm like, this doesn't sound great, but I can still see his explanation. According to the indictment that dropped yesterday, though, they have the paper, or it. And so before, they weren't charging him for revealing classified documents. Now they're charging him for showing classified documents to people who should not be seeing them. So they've upped the charges. They've upped the ante. And if there are witnesses to say, yeah, he showed us that document, I think that's not good for Trump, guys. I think that's not good for Trump. And it kind of looks like at this moment, it looks like he did the thing that they're saying, at least in that part. I think there's a chance that he could still probably get, if they can get a lot of testimony pushed out from his lawyers, because they testified about a lot of stuff, or they were able to break attorney-client privilege because they said that he was doing things that weren't legal. If he can kind of restore that, make a motion to get some of that thrown out, what's from his lawyers, they would lose probably a lot of things in the case. But the document thing's not good. So if it turns out they can prove that, and people would say, well, Trump was a president when he took those documents, and he has the power to declassify whatever he wants from the context of the actual audio, and we haven't seen the video that isn't out. It would appear that Trump did not think that document was unclassified. So he should not talk about these things. He's had a couple of interviews about it. Of course, he talked about it with Brett Baer. He's, on the campaign trail, people ask about it in Iowa and other places. He's doing rallies and going places, I'm sure, constantly talking about this stuff and telling his stories. And he talks a lot. He exaggerates a lot. I always said if they were going to get him, it would be for him talking too much. I think it's pretty obvious to anyone with eyes and ears that he didn't have some kind of nefarious plot with the documents and was going to sell it off to the Russians or something crazy like that we see people fantasizing and hypothesizing. It's really not that deep. It's never seemed that deep. It just seemed like these are Trump's things, and some of his personal things were mixed in and stuff, as he explained. If that's true anyway, and he took stuff and they wanted it back, and then he kind of stonewalled it and then hid documents and stuff. So at first he was charged for like obstructing, and now you see some charges with him actually like mishandling the classified documents. So I don't think it's great. I listened to I had to pick my dad up from the airport, so I listened to the whole Ben Shapiro show talk about the subject, and so he laid out the indictment. He was like, it kind of looks like Trump did these things, but the question is, should they charge? And then he basically went to this. They didn't charge Hillary Clinton for that. So I know there's quite a bit of comments, at least on YouTube. I have not been able to see what you guys are all typing. In case anyone mentioned that yet. Hillary Clinton totally broke the law with her mishandling of classified documents. And there was clear intent there. Why else did she have the servers? They wiped stuff with bleach bit. They destroyed BlackBerries with hammers. And I'll never forget the segment on CNN when Brooke Baldwin was on there, and there was a Trump surrogate that mentioned they smashed BlackBerries with hammers, and she's like, wait, hammers. She's like, fact check that on the fly, hammers. And the CNN guy was just like, yes. And she's like, it was a really funny clip. I included that in my 50 reasons not to vote for Hillary Clinton video that did very well during the 2016 election. It had like 850,000 views on it on Facebook. So she totally should have been charged for how she mishandled those documents. Comey made up some ridiculous standard to get her off the fly. I'll never forget that day either, when I was at work at the Michigan Republican Party when Comey gave his big speech. And so we're watching it all go down. And the way that Comey laid it all out, I'm like, oh, she totally did it. It seemed like he was totally going to say she's guilty and we got to recommend her being indicted. That's where I thought it was kind of going. And then he's like, it's just extreme like negligence and it doesn't rise to the level of prosecution. I'm like, but he tore her up with laying out the facts so much. I'm like, did they tell him not to do that? And then he was like, screw you guys. I'm going to like drop a bomb and drop the mic and walk away. I mean, he laid it out very well. And they opted to not go after her for how she mishandled the documents. And that was when that was going on in the campaign trail, there was the Democrat strategists that were just like, this is a huge crisis. And then, she got away with it. And it felt like the only justice in the world was for her to lose. And that was like as good as I guess it was going to get. And immediately after Trump won, it's like, finally she pays. I was at the rally in Michigan, like the thank you rally. And that was on the west side of the state. And people start shouting like, lock her up. He's like, not anymore. Like, yeah, that was good before, but that's over. That's done now. And so he immediately shut that down. There being any sort of extra, looking into her and re-examining the case. And he had an interview. I don't remember who he had an interview with, which network, right after the election. And they asked about him going after Hillary Clinton. He's just like, I don't want to hurt her. He's like, I don't want to hurt her. And good of the nation, the country. People probably told him he had to drop it. He probably really didn't want to go hard at her like that anyway. He's probably annoyed at the stuff that they did during the campaign and was petty and was like, and he warned them. He's like, if they come after me for, you know, how I deal with women, I'm gonna go after her husband Bill. And he did. Man, the debate, the Hollywood Access tape, people were, oh my gosh, the feelings that folks had. It was just like, this is over for him unless, or everyone around me was kind of like, it's over. And I was like, if he doesn't deliver on this debate tonight, it's over. Well, if he apologized, he had to do that issue with the apology. But when it got to the debate night, I was like, he's got to bring it, or he's just done. Because that first debate was was first 15 minutes good, then he just tanked. Some stuff on the economy, then it just went downhill from there. And then Hillary Clinton like plotted a little like media piece about some fat beauty queen or something, and that became the news. Just excellently timed with the media, working in concert, almost like collusion. But anyway, he brought out two of Bill Clinton's accusers, and he brought out a woman who Hillary Clinton actually got her rapist off. We don't know that story. When there was a little girl who was viciously sexually assaulted, and Hillary Clinton represented the rapist, and she wasn't the public defender, but they wanted a woman to do it because a man attacking a little girl comes off harsher than a woman willing to do that. And they just kind of mishandled the DNA. Hillary Clinton had him do a lie detector test. Maybe you've heard an audio. So people talk about an audio of Hillary Clinton talking about a case, and she laughed. And if you look it up, there's like a Snopes fact checked about it. And like, she didn't laugh at a little girl being raped. Like, no, that's not what happened. She laughed at the fact that this man passed a lie detector test, meaning that she totally knew her client was guilty. So anyway, the little girl was so viciously abused, she couldn't conceive for I guess the rest of her life. And so I will never forget. I keep saying I'll never forget. But after the election, on her Twitter feed, she was just like, "Oh my gosh, she actually lost." She's like, "Thank you so much." That was all the justice that she could have. All the justice that she had that was afforded to her was Hillary Clinton losing. But Trump was like, "You come at me, I'm gonna hit you harder," right? And I think after the election, he was willing to be like, "No hard feelings. Let's whatever." And she wasn't prosecuted, and that was probably the right move for the country. But that doesn't mean that your enemies are willing to make the right move. They never forgave him for winning in 2016. They just never forgave him. So people, thinking like, people are like, oh, Trump can just take a deal. They don't want him to be president. They don't want him to run. They don't want to be the nominee. Are you crazy? They totally want him to be the nominee. They totally want to, because they think he's not going to win. And that's not a far-fetched prediction. I'm torn between, like, I know they want him to be the nominee, but I know they just hate his guts. They hate his guts. He was an elite, super rich, Walk of Fame star person, TV shows, hanging out with the celebrities, giving money to all these people, both sides of the aisle, but a lot of money to Democrats. They hung out together. And then he runs as a Republican. And then they thought he was just going to be a joke. They propped him up. That was Hillary Clinton's strategy, him to be the nominee. They thought he was going to lose. And then he won. He embarrassed them. He embarrassed the Democrats. He totally embarrassed the GOP establishment, came in just like undercut Jeb with the, weak energy, low energy Jeb. Talked about the Bushes and talked about the war machine, and there's people out there who like war and like money from war. Both sides of the aisle, and I think that's pretty obvious. He disrupted a lot. and people did not appreciate it. So I think this is so much more personal than people give credit for. Um, I'm not saying he won't have a deal, um, or a deal won't be presented. And there's people advising him, that he should probably, or saying, I can't believe he hasn't taken a deal, looking at the indictments that are out there. Now, the Bragg one is dumb. The Bragg one is dumb. The classified docs, that's he's got issues. He's got trouble there. He does, guys. So question: should they go ahead and indict him and kind of let him off? Since if the reasoning is they let Hillary off, so they should just let Trump off. That's not how this works. I'm not saying that that's how it should work. I'm saying, like, it's very obvious that's not how it works. These people are playing by a different set of rules. And that's, why I start off with that graphic I showed you about if your crackhead son gets, his felony drug charges dropped by the DOJ, then you ain't black. They just operate from a different standard. Everyone knows that, the press secretary, she was asked the other day by the media, like, does Joe Biden believe that someone who breaks a gun law should be charged at the prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law? And she's like, oh, I see where this is going. I'm going to be very careful because you don't want to answer the question because you know that his son broke the law, and you don't want to expose yourself and expose Biden and the DOJ of just being completely, totally unfair while Joe Biden pushes for more gun control. We live in a different system with different sets of rules, and it's definitely not good for our country. I'm not saying it's an excuse for Trump. If he did the things they're alleging, that bad behavior, should just kind of be overlooked and stuff. I think politically, probably I still think politically the best thing for Biden to do would be to just give Trump immunity himself or just pardon him or whatever. For him, I think that makes him look like the adult. I think that takes a little bit of wind out of Trump's sails as far as using it as a big money machine for fundraising and martyrdom and stuff. And it really continues to free him up to run, and Biden, feels like he can beat him. So I think that would probably be the best move. I'm not saying that'll happen. I don't like to predict things. If it happens, be like, oh, Christina said that. But I'm not saying it's going to happen. I don't like to predict because I don't like to be wrong. Anyway, let's move on. We'll continue, obviously, watching this story, but I don't think it looks great for Trump, and so much of his money that he's raising is going toward like a legal fund PAC, not like campaign stuff. It's going to be something that eats up the news cycle. It's going to be something that eats up finances, and it's going to really, you can love Trump all you want, but it is really going to be a huge hindrance to every other Republican on the ballot. So I do think so much of this is election interference. And what's funny about this, and I'll mention this before I move on, or unless I have a new thought, but one of the reasons why they were so concerned about dealing with Hillary Clinton or like the Hunter Biden stuff was because they were concerned about how it would affect the outcome of the election. And it's pretty obvious that they're doing this stuff, timing in this particular way, because they think it will affect the election, and it will. It will. I don't care how much you love Trump. It's obvious that this will suck up so much oxygen. Imagine being like someone who's running for Congress, or a local House seat, or local Senate seat or something, and you go to knock on a neighbor's door, and then all they can talk about is Donald Trump. Like, we've seen that in the past. That's what will continue to be. And I think that's what that they want to bank on. So this is this is extraordinarily, obviously, election interference from the Democrats without needing to stuff ballots or anything like this. Obviously, and the crazy thing, while Democrats were like, how dare you even think about impeaching Joe Biden? The number one thing these people were saying and were mad about with Trump during the first impeachment was like, how dare you use your power to go after a political opponent? That was the narrative. Maybe you guys are just 2 years old, or 2 or 3, whatever. I don't remember what year it happened. It happened in 2021. No, it couldn't happen in 2021. It had 2017, 2018, something like that. Impeachment. The first one, I don't remember. But that was the narrative that they were pushing. They were so offended. Like, how dare Trump go after a political opponent? Use his power. Like we don't have eyes. Like we can't see what's happening. They went after him because he was sniffing too close to Joe. I think that's why he got impeached the first time. And they're not gonna go easy on him. They're not. I don't think so. I think it's bigger than trying to break his spirit and embarrass him. They hate his guts. It's not like, oh, we were political rivals and now we can, just hold hands like, Bush and Michelle and, holding hands and trading like old people candy. It's not like that. It's not like that. And if and I don't know how people can be all buddy buddy after like you make all kinds of lies about me. You can be rivals and you can talk about substantive issues, but if you're just gonna make up stuff like absurd things, I'm done. Like Joe, like, oh gosh, Mitt Romney said something like he was disappointed in something that Biden did about his, and he said something about his character, and I'm like, bro, this man said you wanted to put black people back in chains. You should know that these people are trash. You should know these people are trash. Like, this would mean you gotta like go to like pick up a sword when you go to the Senate floor every day. Or it doesn't have to be that intense, but just know that you can't trust these people, and you gotta sleep with one eye open. Like, is it worse for people to really believe all the intense feelings that they feel about you, or to just say them for clout and to achieve an end? Both are pretty awful. Both are pretty awful. Both are pretty awful. Anyway, next topic. I want to share this testimony. I saw Riley Gaines had shared this on Twitter. This is Paula Scallon, who competed against Leah Thomas and shared part of her story. If you have not seen the interview I did with Riley Gaines, go ahead and check that out. She talked about how they are bullied, egregiously so. And it did really open my eyes because from the sidelines, I'm just like, why won't y'all do something? Why won't y'all do something? This is crazy. Like, I would not just take this. I would be there like with at least a sign saying like, you were a man. Like, it just, it didn't make sense to me. And as she explained, and you can feel whatever way you feel and be like, no, they should have did something. These are young girls who, were being savagely bullied and threatened and abused, I would say, like psychologically abused. So here's a little clip of Paula's testimony.
This is representative of a greater issue, the destruction of free speech. Today, any discussion maintaining the sanctity of women's spaces is labeled transphobic, bigoted, and hateful. What's bigoted and hateful is the discrimination against women and the efforts to erase women and our equal opportunities, dignity, and safe spaces. One might ask, why do I speak so passionately about issues that seem hypothetical, or some may perceive as only impacting a small number of women? This is not hypothetical. This is real. I know women who have lost roster spots and spots on the podium. I know of women with sexual trauma who are adversely impacted by having biological males in their locker room without their consent. I know this because I am one of these women. I was sexually assaulted on June 3rd of 2016. I was only 16 years old. I was able to forgive my attacker, but violence against women still exists. Let us not forget the viral Me Too movement that empowered female victims to speak up. It cast a spotlight on the widespread prevalence of sexual assault and abuse, including in scholarly and educational institutions. Individuals on this committee have previously stated violence against women is all too common. I am grateful for those members who have brought awareness to the violence against women in the past, but unfortunately, there's still much to be done. As a sexual assault survivor, many policies pushed today completely ignore my experiences and many women like me. I ask the members of this committee, please consider this issue outside the lens of political affiliations and understand the true.
Yeah, so it's just a little snippet, but this should not be like a partisan issue, man. It really shouldn't. Before I went on, and thanks to my sister for heads up on the mic, but someone tagged me in a video of someone saying that conservatives are a hate group, and they listed all these reasons, and it's not something that I could just go through like really quickly if I just take down point by point. So that's one reason why I didn't touch it yet, but I guess I will. But I'm so curious if these people even know what it means to be a conservative. But she's like, you guys push propaganda, and that makes people hate people, and you try to fight against equity. And I'm like, funny that she didn't say equality. They always say equity, not equality, because they don't actually believe in people being equal and getting equal treatment and equal opportunity. And like you do things to hurt the marginalized. What about this? Issues with this? What about that young woman? What about protecting them? Oh, but well, Leah Thomas is more marginalized, so we have to prioritize Leah Thomas above all these other girls. That's crazy. That is crazy. And the person who went on a rant also mentioned like the conservative justices and et cetera, blah blah blah. And I have to lay this out or think about it a little bit more, but at first I just wanted to reply and say, you know what? Yeah, I believe in killing babies. I can go on and on, but y'all believe in killing babies. But I'm gonna save that for a different conversation, I think. But I think I'm gonna say something along the lines of, you can really look at policies from what women like her push versus what people like me push. It comes down to, I don't believe in slavery. Right? Like I believe, well, one reason people got mad when Rand Paul said this, like, healthcare isn't a right because you're not entitled to someone else's labor. He's as a physician himself, he does stuff for free for people who can't afford it, because he feels, as a Christian, he's called to help people, to be charitable to people, right? We believe in charity. We believe in doing good stuff for people, but it's not kindness if you're confiscating someone else's money to redistribute it, right? So it's not that we don't want to help people. It's just we believe in consent. This thing that people keep really, really pushing. We believe in you being able to have a conversation with your employer and to work out and bargain like what you're going to trade your labor for and what you're going to get, what's going to be the monetary value. They're all like, no, we should force the business to do this. And if a small business can't afford it, they don't deserve to exist. And there's Democrat politicians who have said that recently. There are definitely activists who have said that, but that's what FDR thought. He's like, if you can't pay a living wage, then you don't deserve to exist. And he didn't do that he didn't say that because a little common man. They believed in livable wages back then because they believe there are people too good to work for competitive wages. So they wanted like things like the minimum wage and stuff to be a certain amount because there was a base level that these people who were too good to work for X wanted to be at. And then they knew people who would work for X would be out of a job. There's not kindness rooted in these policies. People get, like them because they'll get their little piece of the pie, but that doesn't mean that it's ultimately good or that it was meant to do good. There's eugenics rooted in a lot of this kind of stuff. So I have to think about that position a little bit more. But she mentioned the Supreme Court, and I imagine that she's a lesbian herself. So I imagine that she's probably upset with cases like the 303 creative that was recently decided, and the conservative court said, "Hey, you can't compel people's speech." And the liberal justices were like, "Oh, how dare you, you bigots! Of course, people should be able to force you to do things you don't want to do." you know. And they are looking at through the lens of they don't think that people should be able to discriminate against LGBT people or whatever. The court, and particularly Gorsuch, looked at it through the lens of the government should not be allowed to make you do something that you don't want to do as far as with your speech. So if you're a lesbian and you don't want to bake a cake for a gay conversion therapy camp or whatever, then you shouldn't have to do that, which apparently conversion therapy has been outlawed in Michigan. So if you're a physician or something, which if it's funny that they don't want now there's some like horror stories of like conversion therapy camps and stuff like that of people doing some egregious, immoral, illegal stuff. I would say that's of course disgusting. But if you went to like a medical professional and was like, I would like help dealing with my gender identity or whatever, or you tried to like kind of roll that back, the people view that as a bad thing, even if it's like voluntarily. I haven't looked totally at the law. There's laws in other places that and there have been lawsuits pushing back. But if people want to, it's funny they don't want people to be able to voluntarily do that, but they think if a child gets a parent's permission, they should be able to, stunt their puberty under the guise of parental rights. It's a very strange world. It's a very strange world. But yeah, anyway, you can't compel my speech. I'm not your slave. You can't just come into my business and if I don't want to make a specialized cake or something for your gay wedding or whatever, no, you shouldn't be able to make me do that. You can buy one, pre-made or something, or you can just go somewhere else, and that pisses people off. This is America, or it's supposed to be. So when it comes down to it, you just don't like, our rights that we're trying to conserve. So the First Amendment, free speech, freedom of religion, freedom of association. Those are the things that we're trying to conserve. It's not just about being fiscally responsible, which a lot of people have, tried to be morally conservative and just spend. So there's not, it seems like there's not a lot of like fiscal conservatives out there, but it's a lot more. I don't even know if these people who talk about conservatives actually know what it's supposed to be about. But anyway, let's move on. So we've been talking about Florida and their AP, I'm sorry, not their AP standards, their African American history standards. And we know Kamala Harris has gone after them because I'm going to paraphrase. So the course talks about a ton of things. It talks about slavery like before people landed on the shores here, It talks about the difficulties and the harsh conditions of the slaves while they were on the ships and those who didn't survive. It talks about slave revolts. It talks about the poor conditions on the plantations. It talks about the Underground Railroad. It talks about how the churches, rose up to help, or different abolitionists who helped to, push the Underground Railroad, get people to freedom. It talks about a lot of different things. It's Jim Crow. It talks about the Reconstruction era, and it does talk about different things that um, trades and stuff that slaves would learn. And I don't think that that's a crazy thing to teach, because I think people have it in their minds when they think of slave, they just think of, no, slavery is awful, terrible. Like no one is debating that, by the way. No, I don't care where you read it from and what you say. There's no one out there, and that's um I don't like to use absolutes because there's could always be someone out there, but mainly no one out there, especially not Ron DeSantis and the people who made this curriculum. They're not out there saying that slavery is a good thing. It would have been better for these people who were enslaved to be slaves. That's not the message of this curriculum at all. But someone left a comment on a post that I want to read to you guys, because I thought it was really interesting. Because I think when people think of slaves, they just think about that image of people in the cotton fields, and they don't think about other things that people did. So I liked it. Pretty sure I liked the comment. Okay, I had been wondering about the new curriculum that everyone was freaking out about. Yeah, to me it sounds more like the newly freed slaves made the lemons they were handed into lemonade. Whenever I was taught about slavery, there would be a handful of black figures that were elaborated upon. Same thing here. But the rest were just lumped as poor slaves who had no power or drive or agency, teaching that the slaves were more than unskilled laborers who just picked cotton from dusk to dawn till dusk, which is how I always pictured from the textbooks, sounds more empowering. That they were able to stand up and make something better for themselves, even after everything that they were going through, is so much more powerful than the white man will always have the power over us no matter what we do. So what's the point in trying? So and no one's just trying to say that that they needed to be slaves to have these skills or anything like that. But if you learn how to be a tailor, if you learn how to be a blacksmith, like, you would learn that there were other things that people did besides pick cotton. That's just what happened. And I think that's interesting. I find history pretty interesting. And after they were free, they went on to do other things. And if you could take those skills and become a tailor or a blacksmith or a carpenter or whatever, that's what they're teaching. That's what they're teaching. It's not that it was a good thing these people were slaves, because no, they would have never learned how to do these things. That's not what the curriculum is teaching. So people have mainly Kamala Harris, and then it began expanding. So people are very upset, or have been upset, or pretending to be upset about all this. Some of it's insincere, some of it is really wild. And there were some Republicans that decided to jump in on the action. And I, for crazy reasons, I guess, but Tim Scott was one person who decided to interject in it. Byron Donalds interjected the other day. Let me show you guys what and he was upset that they came at him. Maybe they didn't think that they would, but DeSantis did push back against them, and people are noting, like, bro, just stay quiet. Like, you don't need to defend Kamala Harris's position. So Byron Donalds, let me just share my screen for a moment so you guys can see this. again, I hate this new Twitter thing. It's so, maybe I won't forever, but it's just so weird right now. New African American standards in Florida are good, robust, and accurate. That being said, the attempt to feature the personal benefits of slavery is wrong and needs to be adjusted. That obviously wasn't the goal, and I have faith that the Florida Department of Education will correct this. So, the way that he's framing this is not so. Is not so. That's not what they're teaching. They're not teaching that there are benefits to being a slave. That there are benefits for these people who were enslaved. They're saying that they learned some skills, and afterwards, they use those skills to do things with them. That's it. It's just there's no particular morality attached to those events. It's just a thing that happened. That's true. It's just a thing that's true. And they're applying like all this nefarious emotions and stuff to it, and it's just not the case. So let me show you guys Tim Scott's reply when he was asked about it. And again, they could just, it's campaign season, and of course they would ask Tim Scott though. So people who are like, oh, he should have been quiet, of course they're going to ask Tim Scott this question. They're like, we got to ask the black guy.
Greatest deprivation of freedom was slavery. There's no silver lining in freedom, in slavery. The truth is that anything you can learn, that any benefits that people suggest you had during slavery, you would have had as a free person. What slavery was really about separating families, about mutilating humans, and even raping their wives. It was just devastating. So I would hope that every person in our country, and certainly running for president, would appreciate that. And listen, people have bad days. Sometimes they regret what they say, and we should ask them again to clarify their positions.
So another way to, hate to kind of use this example, but I've played this story before. I've mentioned this particular testimony in my book, but there's a woman, Students for Life, shared their story on YouTube. She was sexually assaulted and impregnated with twins, and so someone at the hospital where she worked was willing to give her a hush hush, free abortion, and she opted not to. And the reason she opted not to is because she had one earlier in life that was pretty late. She was young, dumb teen, and got knocked up. And she says, and she says no one can tell her different, but she swears that she heard her baby scream, and as it was being torn apart. So she says that she said she couldn't try to heal that violence with more violence. So she had her babies, and she talked about how they just saved her life, that they're the light of her world. And she talked about how so many people came together and she got help and assistance and all that stuff. And she got, counseling for her trauma and for her early abortion, as well. And so they're the light of her world. Now, no one would say that what happened to her was a good thing, or that it was worth her going through that thing to, or, have the kids, or people would phrase things like that just because she loves her kids and are glad that they exist and are in her life. So just because something bad, tragic happens to you that should never, ever, 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 ever happen to you, doesn't mean that you can acknowledge that life goes on. So these people had skills that they learned, and some people push back and say, "Are you saying that like slaves they knew how to do things before they got enslaved?" Like, not everybody was born. I mean, not everybody came off a boat. Like, people were born into slavery. What do you mean? Like, babies didn't have pre-blacksmith skills. What does that even mean? It's just such a dumb controversy. It's such a dumb controversy. And I know it's a dumb controversy because AP standards already have the same thing and have said the same thing. And there wasn't this controversy. It's blown up. And by the way, there's standards that other people approved of and didn't have an issue with, but they have an issue with it now because they're like, we have to find something. We have to find something to rag on Ron DeSantis about. So that's what they did. It's just political nonsense. So Black conservative Rob Smith said, I cannot believe so many of our Black Republican politicians are falling for this. This is pre-K level bleep Dems are testing right now. If we have Tim Scott and Byron Donald and others taking this obvious bait this early, we are absolutely doomed in 2024. So I agree. This is really bad faith attacks, disingenuous, but there you have it. There you have it. They feel compelled to respond. Now people were calling out Byron Donalds, and he's upset that they're calling him out. He said, what's crazy to me is I express support. What's crazy to me, I express support for the vast majority of the new African American history standards and happened to oppose one sentence that seemed to dignify the skills gained by slaves as a result of their enslavement. Anyone who cannot accurately interpret what I said is disingenuous and is desperately attempting to score political points. Just another reason why I'm proud to have endorsed President Donald J. Trump. But his framing of the sentence didn't properly reflect what happened. What the curriculum is trying to state. And even still, he's still kind of repeating it, because to dignify the skills, or well, I guess it's not the same thing, but to me, this is a dumb argument he's making now. He poses a sentence that seemed to dignify the skills gained by slaves as a result of their enslavement. So are we not supposed to acknowledge their skills at all? That it happened? That because they use them in enslavement, you can't acknowledge that they have them? That's wild to me. That's really dumb. I I think it's dumb. It's just a thing that happened. It's just a thing that happened. Again, if I learned how to be an expert tailor as a slave and then was free, and I did a skit about this, and then I went and I got a job as a seamstress, it's not racist to say, or being pro-slavery to say, oh, I can sew. And that I did so as a slave. It's just what happened. It doesn't mean that you can't learn, or they couldn't learn to do those things as not a slave. That's not what the curriculum is alleging. That is something that people are imagining and placing onto the text. And they could just, I don't know, tweak it and rephrase it, but they're like, no, we're not doing that because there's nothing wrong with what we said. So they're just doubling down. And apparently they really think there's nothing wrong with what they said, because there's other courses that have said the same, have acknowledged the same thing, that other skills were learned and obtained other than picking cotton. It's such a crazy controversy. It is such an utterly crazy controversy. So Dr. Allen, who's been making the rounds, he did an interview on Fox that I want to play really quickly. Let me play Ron DeSantis' response to Byron, and then I'll play Dr. Allen.
But was picking a fight with Congressman Donalds on this?
It's not picking a fight. It's, look, at the end of the day, Floridians should stand up for Florida. Don't side with Kamala Harris and liberals who are demagoguing this. These are people that worked really hard on this. Our State Board of Education approved it. You had nobody raising a ruckus about this until it became convenient to try to do it. So I would just say, I'd ask all my colleagues in Florida, stand up for your state. Don't side with Kamala Harris.
So he said, yeah, just don't side with Kamala Harris. I agree with that. And then Byron's like, oh, I'm not siding with Kamala Harris. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Like, you're not going out there saying, yes, she's great or whatever, but you agree with her and you're parroting her talking point. And it's just not true. It's just not true.
One of the authors of the Florida curriculum, Dr. William Allen, joins me now. So, Dr. Allen, why do you think Kamala Harris is being dishonest about what's being taught about slavery?
Permit me not to give you Kamala Harris's motives. They are invisible. I don't know them. We can all have suspicions that there's a dishonest purpose afoot. But what's more important than that dishonest purpose is the truth. And this curriculum is devoted to telling the truth, whereas Kamala Harris has retailed a lie. Now, it may only have been a falsehood the first time she stated it, but when you repeat a falsehood, it becomes a lie.
Tell her right now what specifically this component of the slavery course teaches.
Well, permit me to have Frederick Douglass tell her. He wrote an autobiography in which he described how the mistress of his slave owner began to teach him to read. She pulled back the curtain through which a glimmer of light shone before the master forced her to close it. But that glimmer of light was enough for Frederick Douglass to illumine a bright flame that he exploited to his benefit and his country's benefit thereafter. Such examples are numerous, and they are retailed in the stories of people who suffered the indignity of slavery time and again. And quickly, permit me to say, what this curriculum is about is having people who live the experience, who live the history, tell their stories. And nothing is more important than that we never, ever erase the stories that the people who live the stories tell.
The Black Conservative Federation also made a statement. So they said the Black Conservative Federation strongly condemns Governor Ron DeSantis and the State Board of Education position regarding slaves learning skills. This stance undermines historical reality of slavery and the unimaginable hardships endured by millions of enslaved individuals. In reality, slaves were oppressed and denied access to education, equal opportunities, and social mobility. They were forced to adapt and survive under extraordinary circumstances. No one is denying the hardships. That's part of the curriculum. Showcasing remarkable resilience and resourcefulness. Dr. Allen has repeatedly said that over and over again when defending the curriculum. All that stuff is in there. However, attributing their acquired skills as a benefit is an oversimplification and can obscure the true nature of their experiences. Slaves did not have agency. They were forced to do jobs without pay, obviously. This is not a benefit by any stretch of the imagination. It's not a benefit to be a slave. No one is saying that again. No one is saying that. But they said it's wrong to teach that they learn skills. Positions and implementation of curriculum like this dismiss and misrepresent the experiences of marginalized communities, hinder progress, and will alienate potential supporters. In order to grow the party, the GOP must demonstrate a commitment to inclusivity, empathy, and accurate understanding of our shared history. The curriculum, again, we went through it the other day. Again, I will recommend once again the news, what was it called? Jeez. Just National Review. They did an article like Kamala Harris is lying about this, and they listed everything that had basically anything to do with slavery in their article. And they also have a link to the actual curriculum if someone wants to look at it. And it's very, very extensive, and it talks about the experiences that they're saying and need to be understood. It's in the curriculum. It to me, this is so overblown. It's really so overblown. But the thing that's getting to the craziest level is now the Black Caucus is going to the DOJ, and they want the DOJ to investigate if they're breaking some kind of civil rights laws with this curriculum. Again, there was an AP course earlier this year, back in January, that people were really upset about that Florida turned down, and they didn't want to accept it because they had a bunch of they had CRT and queer theory, a bunch of other stuff in it, and we talked about that yesterday. I wrote an article about it. You guys can go to blacktnews.com. And they were really upset. Kamala Harris said it was an extremist thing for them to do. The White House, press secretary said something about it. Other folks said something. Teachers unions, people were up in arms about it. Right? DeSantis, bad person, doesn't like Black history. Blah blah blah. That was the narrative back then. AP standards has similar language to what they're opposing now. So very similar language. This is contrived outrage. I'm not trying to carry water for anyone. I just don't like the dishonesty. And I understand people's feelings about it, but especially with the interpretation that people are having or reading from different people, it doesn't mean it's true. And it's very obvious that the Black Caucus didn't look into the curriculum, because as the DeSantis people were like trying to like, hey, this is here, the AP standards and et cetera, blah, 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 like combating in that sort of way. They're like, oh, well, are you guys you guys need to have this and this and this, like talking about Jim Crow and other stuff. And they're like, bro, it's in the curriculum. It's in the curriculum. You're complaining about things that you think that should be in there that's already in there. People have been going back and forth on the video I posted with a slave from the past on Kamala Harris, and explaining this controversy. And so there was one woman, I don't know how old she is, but she's at least a boomer. I guess she could be older, but I think she's a boomer. And she was like, they're teaching that slavery is good. I'm like, no one is teaching that. No one's teaching that there's a benefit to being a slave. Nope, no one's teaching that. That's not the curriculum. And I'm like, you didn't read it, did you? And then she's like, I would tell you if I didn't read it. And I'm like, you either read it or you're lying. And so we were going back and forth. I'm okay. Take the piece just that you're talking about and paste it into the conversation, so I know that we're talking about the same thing. And she called me a bully. I'm like, I'm a bully because I want you to, substantiate your argument. And she went on a rant about, in my generation, like, lady, like, I don't need your backstory. I just want you to substantiate your argument. And so she said that you're bullying me because we don't have access to this stuff. I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, the proposal hasn't been passed yet, so only legislators can look at it. By the way, that's not how stuff works. You can go, when people are talking about legislation and they're like voting on it and tweaking on it, you can like go to, as soon as they like put it in for consideration stuff, you can go to like the state websites and look at what they're proposing, and you can see different changes and amendments and stuff, and it'll tell you if it passed or not or whatever. So I don't know what she was saying by that. I'm like, you literally said that you read it, or if you hadn't read it, you would just tell me. And she's like, no, I meant that I read local news stories about it, but it's not possible to read the curriculum. And I said, that's not true. And so I shared with her the article from a National Review, and I'm like, they have a link to the actual stuff. So then she still pasted the section and was like, and didn't understand it anyway. And so I had to explain it again. And excuse me, we haven't talked since, but I'm like, she's going back and forth with me about something that she hasn't looked at, that she hasn't read, but she's so certain. She's so certain. And it's so much of this reminds me of the Don't Say Gay bill thing, the Parental Rights and Education bill, and that was far smaller than this curriculum. That was like 6-9 pages, something like that. And we read the whole thing on the show. Didn't take long. And what people were saying about, people think it's literally illegal to say gay in Florida. They think it's literally illegal to say gay, like in a school or something. Like people, that's people's impression of the bill. So I don't know how long this back and forth will go on. I'm probably going to make a more stylized, detailed video. I will probably reach out to some of, I didn't have much time, but I'll have some conversations offline about this with some folks in the Black conservative circles. But if Ron DeSantis can't get a handle on this stuff, these particular stories, it's not going to be good overall for him in the primary and the general. And I think there's, did Byron, was he really offended, or was that just like as a Trump surrogate kind of person, a good time to pounce, especially as a Black Trump surrogate person? I don't know. Maybe he's really upset about it. I can imagine the Black Conservative Federation was actually upset about it. That doesn't, just because you're upset doesn't mean your feelings are warranted. So, hoy vey. Sure, the story will go on for a minute, guys. I hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website, different articles, different videos, etc. Yeah, there's some good conversation stuff going in the chat and stuff, but this is like, we can't say that they invented soul food. Anyway, please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website, articles, videos, etc. Check out different merchandise that's available at the store to be purchased, such as the I'm Not the Victim You're Looking For. We got the Be Better Not Bitter shirt that has Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman on it. George Washington Carver, I believe that is on there too. We got the maybe this book. We got the Constitution's Glorious Liberty document. We got black tea mugs. We got the You Are Not That Special. And make sure you guys consider checking out some of my books over the weekends. You guys have some reading and stuff if you like to read. I have 17 books altogether that's published. 2 are nonfiction, the rest are fiction. So I got a wide range of things. I have not middle school, like I got Super Kid. The middle grade chapter, like 8 to 10, is like the sweet spot. I've had kids young as 6 who have picked it up and read the whole thing in a day. One of my viewers said that they're 10, were they 10 or were they 8? I think they're 10-year-old read it in like 4 hours. The Super Kid book, and now they're reading through Super Kid too. So people really like Super Kid, but I do have books for older readers as well. And I also have my book, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion, that you guys can check out. It's available on Amazon, and it's also available on Barnes and Noble. If you go to blacktnews.com, hit the merchandise page, there's a banner at the top with my books on it. You guys can find a link that'll take you to my website, my book website, that'll explain, what they're all about. So if you want some more information, but if you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. Costs to stream and run my website and all that stuff. So if you can support, God bless you guys. Thank you guys for, viewing and commenting and being part of the conversation. And I will see you all on Monday.